Welcome to the Soldier Fund podcast, the platform for untold stories from the National Guard Special Forces community. Join us as we delve into the lives of these elite warriors and the journey of our nonprofit, dedicated to supporting their courageous mission to free the oppressed worldwide. I'm your host, Ben Derek. Let's dive in. Well, man, this is a conversation I've been extremely eager to have. Actually, I've been working on you for, about 2 years now to get you behind Mike?
Yeah, that's right.
So you guys are resistant, and I find the more resistant you are, the better the interview is going to be. So just to get our audience familiar with who you are, let's just go rank and times downrange.
Yeah, so I'm a master sergeant. Been in the Army for around 20 years or so, downrange, 7 combat deployments, and then other knickknacks and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's an interesting part of that question that's emerged over the episodes is it's not just going to war when you guys are head off pillow. There's so much training involved with being a GB, even a National Guard Green Beret, right?
Right, yeah, there's a lot of things that we do that I guess is not realized. You know, it's the combat movements, but it's also like, training opportunities that hone our skills outside of that. Partner force relations, things like that is a big part of what we do.
Yeah, a really big part of it. I mean, the by, with, and through, people talk about that. Even civilians are kind of learning that language, but that really means that you have to travel somewhere. You have to build relations with partner forces, train them up, teach them how to participate in warfare, what's going on even in their region that you're more aware of. It's a pretty fascinating part about being a Green Beret that most people don't know.
Yeah, I think that it goes... Like you said, a lot of people don't realize, but our main mission is conduct unconventional warfare, and so in order to do that, you need to align yourself with a partner force that's downrange. Well, how do you know who those people are? And so we travel the world and develop relationships. So when those countries do see conflict, we know people that are on the ground at the time that can give us a call.
Yeah, well, let's shift a little bit because we have to call this out at the start of this episode. You're actually known inside the formation as a storyteller. Being a Green Beret, a big part of that is making those relationships. So I needed to, I guess, adapt to, to make good relations with the partner force. In order to do that, they need to understand who you are. You need to understand who they are. And the best way to do that is, you're just talking to them and telling stories, and you're telling them about your life and how it came to be and things like that. And they're doing the same, and you build that camaraderie that make you a more effective fighting force with trust. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was with you at Shelby, about a year ago now. And I looked over, I was with a different group of guys. I looked over like, man, we're going to have to bring this guy some chairs. Like, you had a crowd around you.
Yeah.
But the interesting part about it is you're right. Those stories start to be exchanged, and it's a very subtle and natural way to get to know somebody. And really, you're getting to the heart of why we're doing this podcast in so many respects is it's my desire to capture these stories so that they don't disappear with the man. When the man moves on with his life, we talk about this a lot. There's going to be a day where the guy hangs up the green suit and trades it for a different kind of suit. And I really want these stories to remain and live on, to be recorded as a legacy. So today we're sitting down to talk about when it gets real, which you and I have shared a couple of these stories off mic. It's why I identified you to be the guy. And I know there's a sensitivity here. You guys in this population as Green Berets, you're the quiet professionals. You're not looking to brag on yourselves or be glory hounds. There's plenty of other special forces entities that are really good at doing that. That's not the Green Beret.
Right.
But I really want people who are tuning in, both donors, gentlemen that are thinking about getting into this way of life, to hear firsthand what that is actually like from a Green Beret's point of view when it gets real. If we can, I'd just like to jump in there right from the start and talk about your first experience in warfare and what that was like post-training, post-acute course. I mean, you are shit hot ready to go, and you drop into warfare. What was that like?
I have a little different perspective because I was a soldier before, transitioned to Special Forces in Green Berets. So I was young. I was 17 years old.
I didn't know that.
Going when the war first started and everything. And I had tasted combat at a very young age. So it kind of shaped my perspective through the years about, how I've seen things. But one of the things I'd say is when you're young, you think about how you want to be, make your mark and legacy and that kind of thing. I really thought that, experiencing combat and doing those things would I guess, solidify my reputation or being as a man. And I realized real quick that really has nothing to do with the matter. Everybody that's young wants to prove themselves on the battlefield to make their mark, but being a real man has absolutely nothing to do with that. So, saying that, first experience in combat, we were flying in. I didn't make it to the invasion. I was a little bit after that when the war first kicked off, and I think it was March 2003. So I got there quite a bit later, towards the end of that. And it had already started. The war had already started to kind of not be as hot, but was heading toward the direction that insurgency seemed to rise. But we had started moving on the infield there, and we were on a Seahawk, a Sea Stallion. I'd never been on one of those before. It was a Marine Corps helicopter. And on the way in, we had received contact. They had fired a couple of RPGs at us. So that was kind of my first intro before I even entered the ground. I was like, hey, man, There's somebody out there that's trying to kill you, Right.
And you're 17 at this time.
Yeah, I'm 17, 18 years old when this was happening. But my first actual engagement with the enemy, we were traveling to a place called TQ, I believe it was. And we had a small convoy going there, moving some supplies and whatever else. And we had received an IED, and it ended up being a complex attack. And it kind of rocked my truck pretty hard. I remember I was driving at the time, and it blew our vehicle kind of sideways there. It was able to continue to move, but not without help. So once the combat...
At this time, had they been armored underneath? I know we made that pivot after this.
We did what we had at the time, and it was we did have some upgraded armor that had just come out, but most of the vehicles were like hillbilly armor. So we were using soft-skinned vehicles and putting sandbags and things like that in there in order to... seat covering concealment with that. But the hillbilly army came out. We had some guys that were really good at that kind of work. They would weld armor on the side of the vehicles and stuff to help us out. But it was better than nothing,
Right.
But anyways, my gunner ended up getting hit on that movement. He got hit just on the side of the neck. It hit his helmet mainly, so he was able to keep maneuvering. But I remember him firing, and I could look up. I got out of the vehicle and could see that there was movement, and started firing that direction. And it's kind of cliche, I guess, but people talk about PID and the enemy and things like that. My old team sergeant got on to me about that a couple of times. But when some people shoot and somebody's trying to kill you, we're all shooting.
That's right.
So you see the direction that it's happening, you see movement, but you really can't tell exactly what you're shooting. You see muzzle flash, whatever else, but I'm not seeing the white of his eyes or anything. So we're just firing that direction. I remember looking up and seeing his 50 cal barrel, and I could see the rounds traveling through it. He was firing so much. It was melting the barrel. He was firing that much. They would do things like that. It was very unconventional fighting in nature, so it made us adapt kind of quickly to fighting an insurgency.
So just a quick pause here, a question. You're so young. I've got a son that age, and I'm just happy that he makes it to school and back. And you drop into this environment, of violence. My question is, were you prepared the way that the military prepares a man? Were you ready for that?
Yeah, no. I mean, you're never, I guess, prepared in that way. I mean, you have an idea, and at that time, it seemed like the Army was transitioning, and it got kind of real with the basic training and things like that. So we had drill sergeants at the time that really shifted the gears in order to instill, you're going out to kill the enemy. And so it was kind of raw the way we got it. I think they were able to put their hands on you again and things like that. And we got a saying in group, it's like, hard men make easy times make easy men, and it's basically, you need to be hard in order to make hard soldiers. And so they adapted that quickly, and it did prepare us for the fight to come. But that mental transition between being a child and being a man is what I was going through. And so it unfortunately, it caused me to grow up kind of quickly when in that regard.
Yeah.
So I did miss out on a lot of things like, college and doing those things. I did go to college later through the deployments and everything, but you just miss out on your childhood, your latter years, and you kind of look back and you're like, man, I didn't really get to do a lot of those things in order to be a kid for the last time. It just happened so fast.
There's a trade-off on everything, isn't there? There's for every benefit, there is a cost. I can say, sitting across from you today, though, the order that you've gone in and the things that you've experienced, there's something that I envy about it. I did stay close to home. I didn't respond. I saw the towers go down just like you guys did, and just kind of kept going on about my life. And as I interact with a lot of civilians, especially men my age in their mid-40s, we kind of have this regret, and wonder. But I think most of that comes from seeing you guys currently in society and the type of men that you are, especially the way you approach problem sets. It's very unique. The things that you guys have been through, the education that you did receive in that order. It's funny, as we sit across from each other, green suitor to civilian, we have two very different perspectives about what we wish would have happened. And I know we're both men of faith, so the track that our life takes, we believe God's in control of that in so many ways. And in fact, you just sitting here, I think, is evidence of God's provision over your life and mine as well. But it causes me to ask a follow-up question when you said I was thinking this is what was going to happen, proving that I'm a man or solidifying my manhood. Is that something that was planted in you early? Like a lot of guys that I sit with, they read a book or they watched a movie, they watched Rambo, and something lit off in their mind like, man, I'm going to be that guy. Did you have that experience?
I come from a long line of soldiers that done a lot of fighting over the years and stuff like that. My father was a soldier for a long time, and grandparents and things like that, and uncles and everything else. So I'd been familiar with the Army growing up, and it kind of, and I think that, the guys that came off of World War II and all that stuff, that mentality was still very prevalent, especially in the South, about how they did business and things like that. So I adopted a lot of those characteristics from my father. But I watched all the movies too. I didn't know what I wanted to do as far as like being a Green Beret or anything. I just wanted to fight, but I did watch Rambo and things like that. I was like, if I'm going to do it, that's something that I've always wanted to do. It just, the war happened so quickly. It kind of delayed my process of whatever. And it's not easy, and I did put it being on a pedestal for some time, going special forces. And I'm glad I did, because I was able to collect some experiences and things like that prepared me for the job. But John Wayne, man, why not?
We have a lot of guys listening in that are trying to make that decision. Many of them are actually already inside the military, and they're trying to figure out, based on the YouTube comments, they're trying to figure out, how do I navigate from this place that I am in my military career over into SF? It would be awesome if you could just describe that shift for you, that day that you decided, all right, I'm going to do this, and how long it took you to get there, and how many levers you had to pull. What was that like?
Unreal. It seemed unreal, really, the fact that I was even attempting to do it. Like I said, I put it on a pedestal for some time. But my first experience with the Green Beret happened when I was very young. I would say on my second deployment, I think. I was a gunner on a gun truck, and this is a story. The reason why I wanted to be it, I guess, kind of was the decision. It was the time that I saw it, and I was like, "Hey, this is what I need to be." I made up my mind. We were doing a patrol with gun trucks and on foot, and there was an engagement not too far, and I could see the green tracers and stuff, and we were moving toward the position, green and red, red being us and green being the enemy, right? Yeah. And so like Star Wars. But anyways, we're heading over there, and we're trying to call on the radio, because the last thing we do is just moving to a firefight, what's going on. Well, about that time, we look up once we get our position, and I see a cotton pick combine coming from the wood line. A lot of people are like, oh, there's no combines in Iraq. Well, I'm like, oh, yeah, there is. So we see this 2 rockets fire from the wood line, and all of a sudden this combine tractor starts, moving off the objective quickly. And we're like, oh, so we start moving towards it. And so we call on the radio that we're maneuvering, and we get over to it. Well, by the time we get this small little village, it's probably, when I say village, it was probably like like 5 or 6 houses, in line like that. And the combine had stopped right on the outskirts. And, me being from the South, we go when we secure, best we can. And it's like, hey, could you go check out the hopper or whatever? And I was like, yeah. So I jumped in the tractor or whatever and looked in the hopper on the bottom. It was filled with like 155 rounds and things like that. And I'm like, oh, dang, this ain't good. So I close it up, and start climbing out of there. And we're just sitting there wondering what to do. And we call on the radio and everything. And then about that time, we had 3 trucks pull up, no doors, no nothing. Gunner on top, no shield, just a gun. And looked like ZZ Top. The beards long. I was like, who in the world is this, And so anyways, I remember him talking to the platoon sergeant, and they were like, all right, who knows what a combine key looks like? And I was like, I raised my hand. And he's like, all right, you're with us, whatever. And my platoon sergeant, they look at each other and he's like, hey, yeah, we're just going right there. It's not far, So anyways, they get in the truck and we're driving to one of the houses, I guess, that maybe they already had intel on it or something like that. And he's giving me the brief. He's like, all right, brother, you're just going to be in the back. We're going to go hit the house. It's going to be fine. It's not like a lot of people there. So put you in the back there. And when I put my hand on you to move you, I'm just going to move you into position. I was like, all right, sounds good. So we go in. They clear the house, whatever, no contact. But they're going to the back, and I hear a lot of commotion and stuff like that. And the guy grabs me and puts me on another individual. And he's like, watch him, don't let him move. And I was like, okay. And so I hear the commotion in the back, and they drag that dude out. And they're like, hey, is this it? Is this it? And I was like, and the guy started to try to move toward the center of the room. And so I pulled my pistol. And I put it on him. I was like, hey, don't move. I'm gonna kill you. And they're like, hey, is this it? Is this it? And I was like, I look and I'm like, yeah, that's it. And so they grab the dude, hog time, whatever. We get out of the house. They throw him in the back of the truck, blindfolded and everything else. And then he takes me back to my platoon and drops me off. And I was like, that was the greatest thing that ever happened.
Finding the key.
And, to this day, man, I don't remember even seeing the key. I don't think I did. I probably put that innocent dude in the bind. He may have been innocent. I don't know. But I didn't actually see it, which is, I feel bad about that. But,
well, certainly the story would prove if they found the key or not.
yeah. But yeah, that was my first, encounter with Special Forces. It was a 10th Group team out of Calsu, I think.
So is their aggressiveness, proficiency, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it was just a demeanor, really. Okay. Just the calmness of the whole thing, and just able to tell me exactly what I needed to do without, it seemed like all the rules and regulations just kind of fell off, and it was like just men talking to men, and I was like, I saw how they did it because I didn't know like who was in charge. I didn't know like, any of that, but it didn't matter to them. They were just doing the thing. And I was like, man, that's great. I thought about it years later, and I was like, man, I don't even know who was what or what they were doing or anything. I mean, they had uniforms on, but not like I had,
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. That's kind of my way. If we could do that every day, I think that I would want to do that. So I started to make that transition a little bit after that. And then I had done another deployment in 2009, and then things started to dwindle down in the war. And I was like, well, man, maybe this isn't for me. I see the transition happen. So I decided to try it. And I'd read a story. It was like an article or something. I'm trying to remember it. But it was about some guys over in Afghanistan at the time. And they had lost a couple of dudes. And the rumors started flying about this team that were able to, I guess, make things right. And so they started maneuvering and the guys that ended up were killed are part of our unit now. In Mississippi. They're on our wall. You've seen their faces.
I have, yeah.
And they were able to make things right. And I guess they didn't hear from the team for some time or something like that. They were making it happen. I was like, hey, man, like if I were to die right now, like no one would, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But it seemed like the camaraderie that I was missing or that dwindled down at the later part of the war, I needed that. And so it attracted me to them, and I was like, that's where I need to go. That's who I am. So I made the transition, went to selection, and I've been on a team now for nearly 15 years.
Man,
never leave.
What a story! I can tell you, just knowing what I know about your personality, and it's unique. I think to hear a man say, "That's what I needed. Yeah. That's who I am." Has that been in you since birth, or is that something you think the Army's built over time?
No, I think that. I used to do the tryouts for guys that are doing to come, be Green Berets and things like that. So you
SFEs
see all,
SFEs
and stuff. So you see guys come up from all walks of life and all that. And I, they would ask me like, what are you really looking for? And I was like, man, that's a good question. And so after talking to guys that have been Green Berets for a long time and seeing what kind of people they were, what you're really looking for is a guy that can, it sounds bad, but chop somebody's head off and spit down their throat and not feel bad about it. Mm-hmm. And then 5 minutes later, put on a suit and tie and talk diplomatic to a foreign president about the way their country should go. So you need a kind of sometimes like a split personality, seems like, to make some of these things happen. But yeah, I think that I think it was the way I was raised. I think that it was how I was brought up, that led to that. I really don't know. That's a really good question about did I always have that thing or whatnot. I would say so, but, I had good team sergeants that made it what it is, Yeah,
that's kind of my point of view, just as a guy who's adjacent to the community but hasn't been through the waypoints that you guys have. Yeah. It feels like there's something in a man that makes him capable of being a Green Beret. Yeah. Once he goes through the process, those things that were already there get matured, developed, honed, and put into practice is what it looks like. It's very difficult, I think, having watched this, for a man to get through selection, head into the Q course, and suddenly manufacture something that he needs to pass through these particular metrics or gates. And all you guys that I meet in the community, it's like there's a base there.
Yeah, I think so too. There's definitely a base, and I think that the like warfare bred a lot of those things. Nowadays it's difficult because guys don't have I think back in the day, of course I'm not that old, but I think back in the day, and especially Vietnam time, you needed to be a staff sergeant with some level of combat experience before you even came over. I'm not saying that's always needed, but it does kind of dwindle down some of the issues that you may have trying to transition, that kind of thing. But I've had, my best friend came right off the street and is probably the best Green Beret I know. But we have a thing that we say is like, hey, I can teach you anything. That's what we do. We teach people how to fight wars and stuff. And I can teach you anything, but I can't teach you to care. Like, that's something your daddy gave you. So I think that at that point, the care for your friend, the care for your work is something that comes that I can't train. There's nothing I can do to get you there. That's something that you were born with or something that happened at a very young age.
Yeah, let's go back a little bit and talk about this, as you termed it, the split personality, because I really want to detail this for the people listening, that a Green Beret is capable of extreme violence.
Yes.
Okay. As I have talked with you guys, both on mic and off, that violence isn't violence for violence sake, though. It has a purpose. There's a reason behind it.
Yes, I would say that, violence, I don't think, and it's difficult because we, especially being in the civilian world, which we have to do, like being in the Guard, we have to be on that spectrum, but we also have to bring that back home and have a weird, hard transition. And for some guys, that can be difficult to do. But you need to understand what first, second, and third order effects are. I would say that I don't think the world, as we, coming up, really understands violence, and those that have had know. And so we're not willing to, like you said, violence for violence sake. People that do violence for violence sake don't understand true violence. Like, I got guys on my team that hurt you real bad, and they don't feel bad about it. But they're also good men. How they transition that is something that takes probably a psychologist to do, but it's a level, it takes years, I guess, to perfect. to going over and back and forth many, many times, experiencing combat and then coming back home to a family. My dad gave me a pretty good advice sometimes, one time, and it seemed true. I was driving back and forth. My team sergeant would keep me busy in the early days doing whatever, So I didn't spend a whole lot of time at home. I'd probably only get the weekends, And so I'd do all that work and drive home on the weekend to see the family and everything. And I just kind of tense, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, man, you need to stop before you get home. So right before I got home, I'd stop at a gas station and just sit there for 10, 15 minutes, and drink a coffee or have a Snickers bar or something like that. And that seemed to I could go in with the right mindset, because I remember my wife saying a couple of times, she's like, hey, I'm not a soldier. Don't talk. I was like, it's true. It's hard. It really is a hard transition to do that. And you want to be easy on your kids, that kind of thing. That's probably even harder, because you want to, you understand how bad things can actually get. So you want to protect your children. You want to protect your friends with these things. But sometimes you can go overboard with trying to do that, So I really don't have an answer for you. I know that was a long about way to say I really don't know, but I don't know.
Well, it's something I think it's a great answer. The reason I asked the questions directly the way that I did is because I want people to understand that are listening, because the majority of us as Americans live very soft lives. We talk about this a lot on this podcast. But the things that you guys have seen are what I would term, as I've heard it described, I would term it pure evil. I mean, there's violence in the world. We're not going to eradicate violence. There are bad people doing bad things to good people and innocent people. And there needs to be a fighting force, a group of people that are standing in the way of that, as you termed it, to make things right. Yeah. I love the fact that we're going to put this out there and people in the world are going to hear there are things going on that the United States is participating in that is making things right, even if it doesn't hit the 5 o'clock news.
Yeah, I have something to say about that, actually. I never wanted to make it about, my faith or anything like that while I was fighting and stuff. I don't think that's the right way to do it.
Okay.
But there was a transition point where I thought, hey, man, I'm doing something good here, intrinsically good, During the insurgency in Iraq, early time frame, 04, 05, there was the IEDs that started to get real prevalent, right? And so they were thinking of ways to kill us, very creative ways. One of the ways I remember, we were riding down the road and they would put children in the road, and the kids would be out there just standing in the middle of the road. And so we would stop, and when we'd stop, they'd attack us, with complex attack, IED, small arms fire, PKM, stuff like that. And we lost a couple buddies that way.
With kids in harm's way.
With kids in harm's way. And so we're trying our best to swerve and whatever, but they're moving with you. They are willing to get hit for their cause.
The children.
The children, yeah.
Damn.
And I was like, something's got to be done. And at that point I had maybe I am doing this for the right cause, that kind of thing. Maybe this evil does need to be eradicated in some way. But people are capable of, real bad things, not just over there, man, but stateside too. The first start of that, especially you see the cartels doing evil things and stuff down there. They learned that somewhere. They learned that from the early part of the Iraq War. That was a huge technique, like the murders that were on TV and stuff, the heads chopping off and all that stuff. That started in Iraq, and that day. And then they just adopted it later on to use down there. So a lot of the cruelty that they've learned down in the cartels use, they learned from the things that we were doing over there, things they've seen.
Yeah, so what you're describing really well, and I thank you for that. I appreciate your vulnerability. You're describing, I think, the transition I see a lot of guys go through in their career, where they start not just owning the perceived glory of the role or whatever that role, whatever questions it would answer, but actually owning the role, the essence of what it means to be a Green Beret.
Yeah, I mean, we have a motto. It's to free the oppressed deliver. Is what it's in Latin, and you can get really, that means a lot, man. It means a lot to a lot of the guys I work with. Even the guys that pretend like they don't, like it's not, it is. And we really take our job really seriously. So when we're going over training in the partner force, like, you know, to be a good Green Beret, you have to legitimately love your fellow man, and love your buddy, like legitimately. Like you're teaching that guy things that's going to save his life. Well, you're going to leave. We'll go over there training, and we'll have to leave. Or sometimes we're not able to fight with them, that kind of stuff, you know. So they're fighting later. I remember this. One of the jobs that we had back in 2015, and my team sergeant put me in charge of training the snipers that they had at the first house-off in Iraq. And Mattis was back in charge at that point, so it was kind of, you know. But anyways, and they were retaking Fallujah, and I'd been there before back in the day. And
back in the the original Fallujah,
the second push or whatever.
Wow.
And I remember him and me and another buddy had both been there, and they were getting ready to go. And I remember my team sergeant bringing me in. He's like, "Hey man, like did I started getting like my hands started sweating, that kind of stuff, you know." And I'd really taken it seriously about training these guys to the best of my ability, because you know they're might not make it back. And in order to produce a good, you know, relationship and be a good Green Beret, you have to actually care what you're doing, you know. And I guess that motto, to free the oppressed, really hits home, because you have freedom, and it was on the backs of, you know, men before. You need to understand that when you start training other dudes over there, they don't have it, and you can give it to them. So yeah, I take that kind of seriously. I think the guys around me take it pretty seriously too. So, but yeah, you need to understand that if you want to be a good team guy, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. A couple of episodes ago, we had a guy on, Scott Mann. You're probably familiar with him, with the Pineapple Express. I'd love to, if you're willing, just get your take on the shutdown, I guess would be the terminology of Afghanistan, having invested at that emotional level, and the things that have gone on over there. What's your take on that?
Yeah, you know, we build relationships. That's our number one job, you know, is build relationships. That's one of the things that like can get you, you know, if you're in the Q course, one of the things they said is the biggest no you can do is like, I guess, lose credibility with the partner force, and they kick you out of the G base, that kind of thing, you know. Yeah. So we take that part of the job very seriously. So seriously enough, I think some guys just go native, you know. And so you meet people that are actually your friends in real life, and, you know. And when you leave the country and you see the way it was done, it does hurt, man. You know, it does hurt, because you've positioned yourself to appear like the American way, like, hey, we will never leave you, like we'll never leave a man behind, that kind of thing, you know. And we respect each other, we lean on each other for those things. And so when I have a partner force that was over there that we help train or whatever else, you know, and we leave like that, it kind of like, I wonder what they think about the team now they know the truth, you know, that we're not willing to do what need be. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have got out of Afghanistan. I'm on 100%. Nobody wants to fight wars for 20 years. Heck, I've been fighting the same war for 20 years, man.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a way to do it, and we need to do it in a respectable way.
Well, there it is. You hit on it. I think what I was hearing in your answer is reputation.
Reputation, yeah.
Man, in this community, reputation really, really matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It goes really far. I don't have to worry about what's behind me ever. Like, I know that when we go anywhere, it could be out, you know, to a bar or whatever else, a restaurant, like I don't have to even, because I know he's thinking the same thing I am, and we've trained together so long, like I know what he's going to do. And yeah, it's just it's irreplaceable, that feeling of trust and that you have with a team guy. I don't know how to explain it. I've never had that with any other human, except the dudes that are on the team. Yeah, it's probably the only place I can really relax.
Would you call it a brotherhood?
Yeah, definitely a brotherhood for sure. Yeah, they're special people. They really are.
Yeah. And I don't think it's all. I used to think when I first got around you guys, well, this is because they've been to war together, they've suffered together. But you're right. It's so much more complex. It's really, you can't describe it. You just have to experience it.
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job of finding those things within the selection process and things like that. One would argue that we all kind of look the same, kind of thing. I don't know what the selection criteria is, but one of my first examples of that, of the brotherhood, we were in Afghanistan together, and I'd had a baby, and we didn't have a lot of dudes, man. We only had like 9 dudes or something on, and we're in the middle of, Gardes, it's like, hey man, like everybody's needed, you can't whatever. And I remember my team sergeant walking up, he's like, hey man, like having a baby. I was like, yes sir. He's like, guess you should probably pack your things. So I was like, hey man, like I'm needed, like I'll whatever. He's like, nah, you're gonna go, like telling me. And man, he I packed all my stuff. There was like a helicopter there the next day.
Wow.
And then he gave me like $5,000. He's like, hey man, be careful on the way home. Call me when you get there and make sure it's good. And I don't know. I think this is true. I'd have to ask my wife, but I think I got paid just like I was there. I don't know if he even told anybody. He just sent me home. I did my thing.
It was off the books.
Yeah, it seems that way. I don't know if that's true or not, but it felt that way. It's like I just went just easy as can be, like no issues. And then, I'd called. We had like a month left on the movement or something like that. And I called him. I was like, hey, brother, I'm ready to. He's like, hey, man, just meet us at Bragg. And so I was like, dude, you're not going to find us anywhere else somebody to do that for you, But yeah.
You're describing what I would call a sacred space, and I feel this when I walk into team rooms as a guest. And I mean, I'm always a guest in that environment.
Yeah.
But it does. It feels like a sacred space. There's something that's been built there together over time in these areas where ODAs occupy. It's just
it's a lot of history there. That we respect and having. Going through things together, build that camaraderie. You never remember the good times. You're always going to remember the light. And the fact that, like, if you can't go through like hard times and look at each other and laugh, probably in the wrong place. But yeah, it doesn't matter. I've been on the team like I said, a long time, and like any team room, I knock on the door. I don't just walk in there. Like, what I mean? They'll kill you in there. Yeah. So yeah, we respect that, and everybody respects it from the highest rank to the lowest. Like, you don't just walk in somebody's team room. You need to announce yourself, what you're there for, that kind of thing, and that's their space. It's the few spaces that they have, and that's one of them. So yeah, we hold it in high regard.
Yeah, I definitely know that. I made that mistake a time or two, and those guys exercise a lot of forgiveness over me doing that. But there's like, hey, the first time, that's okay.
Yeah.
Time number 2, we're going to have a problem. Right.
And I'd grown up, and all the older Green Berets are still around that I had looked up to. Nowadays, it seems like a lot of those dudes are gone, that kind of thing, that have done fighting for a really long time, that had different, a lot of experience and stuff. And I looked up to those guys. Man, I don't think I'd said anything for like the first month or two being on the team. Like, I was like, what do you want me to say? Like, you just tell me what to do, I do it, And it's like, these dudes are awesome,
Yeah, that's part of the process. I think another thing that you guys understand intuitively is initiation, knowing your place, providing value before you demand anything.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all big lessons that are lost in modern culture. But what excites me is that we're now getting to the place where we're feeling the breakdown of society so heavily that we're looking to men like you to have a larger voice publicly, which I know, honestly, is a big problem for a Green Beret. But I feel that we need to amplify the voice of the Green Beret. We especially need to amplify the voice of the National Guard Green Beret that understands so clearly both sides of the culture, that you're not just immersed in military culture and have no idea what the civilian life is like. Vice versa also being true. You guys and your ability to be able to adapt to what's needed at the time, which leads me kind of to my final part of the interview here. I'd love for you to tell stories, and I know the people that know you listening to this episode are going to be very frustrated at me that we don't have more stories rolling out. I do have one I want to ask you about in just a minute, but when it comes to career glide path and understanding that there's another generation of Green Beret coming after you, this seems like a difficult transition for the warfighter. aging inside the SF community is something I think we're not talking about enough. Getting to the end of GY, 20 years of war, operating on an ODA for all this time, when it's time to not do that any longer. I just would love for you to put some words to what it feels like or what your take is on aging as a Green Beret.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. Your hands start to slow down, your trigger speed slows down, things like that. But sometimes it's more than that too. All the glory and all that stuff's gone, man. And it's like, now what do I do with my hands? That kind of thing, There's a little bit of responsibility that I think we take very seriously. And it was, earlier it was about like partner force relations and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You look at the young guys coming through and it's like, hey man, I have to make sure this dude understands like what he's going through and what this is about, handing off the torch, as it were. It's something that I think we need to spend more time on. Getting older, on the teams, nobody wants to leave the team, man, ever. Like if I could stay on the team my whole life, I would. Till I'm 80 years old, man. And the guys that I came up with are the same way. That's like the pinnacle of your life, is being a team dude. And when it's over, like, those are hard, real close relationships that you have, that you don't have in the civilian world. Like you're friends with your buddies in the civilian world your whole life. My best friend's on the team with me. You know what I mean? And like when it's over, I'm going to lose that. I would say that a part of you kind of leaves when you leave the team, that kind of stuff. But you need to try to focus on, I think podcasts like this are the way. I think lessons learned write-ups are the way, so we can give a little bit of ourselves back to the guys that are coming up and
100%
and give them a little bit of help as they go. Because, battle warfare on the battlefield is really knowing what not to do. That's how you stay alive.
Say more about that.
Everybody's talking, this is what you do when the situation happens, and this is what you do. And those things are good, but really what you need to know is what not to do. That's how you get dead. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, at the I think in World War II, I think it was, the Germans or Russians or somebody was really mad that we didn't really follow our own doctrine. Well, what we do is on the battlefield, guys are moving, they do something that caused a lot of casualties, and whoever was next just wouldn't do that. So we wouldn't follow our own doctrine. We adapted to the battlefield itself. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did at the first start of the war. And, able to adapt like that is, your ability to transition and adapt and overcome to different problems, and really understand the guys that made mistakes before will train you what to do. So seeing guys that have left the team so far, some guys have done it well, some guys have done it bad, and seeing that and applying the training that we've had over the years to really transition back into the civilian world. We have a training technique or a mental task called OPE. It's Operational Prep for the Environment. And me and my buddy were talking about this the other day. We're doing that constantly. We're prepping the environment for everything. And that's part of the nature of being a Green Beret, is understanding first, second, and third order effects. And so as we prep the battlefield for us because as soon as I step on the battlefield, the situation changes. Matter of fact, as soon as we discuss it in a private setting, the battlefield's changing because somebody's going to get wind that we're actually prepping to do something. Mm. And so it's a ripple effect across everything, no matter what decision you make, prepping the battlefield and operation prepping the environment, I would say, is probably the number one thing that we need to do in transition to being off the team. We need to prep, our family to deal with us, I guess you could say. And then the other would be to find us something to do with our hands. We have to keep your mind busy. You can't stop moving. I watched my dad retire, and it was kind of painful process. He couldn't let it go, because he had lost that, and he wasn't on a team or anything. So you can imagine what a team guy would go through.
Right.
We talked earlier about feeling comfortable. It's the only place I can relax is on a team, And when you don't have that, it's like all that burden's upon yourself to go back to the civilian world, and it's like, dude, I don't have my team, man. I'm here by myself, raising kids, running whatever. I don't have anybody to lean on, you know. But they're there. You just need to call. So that's another thing that I'd say, that it's the only way that a good team guy can function is because he keeps those contacts alive throughout the years. Like, there's no doubt in my mind as I get older, like, I'm still going to be calling the same people for the problems that I have. And that relationship that you build is so strong that you can't let it go. And you have to carry that over into getting older and getting retirement. Those dudes are going to help you through life, just like they helped you on the battlefield, you know? So that's something that, you know, we need to use things like this podcast and getting together. And those things are healthy for the team guy, for sure.
There's a tremendous amount of nuance in what you're talking about. Yeah. So I'd love to, if you have more time today, just to slow down on that.
Sure.
There are two things that are coming to mind in your answer. First of all, you guys are like contingency whores.
We are, yeah.
You have to plan for contingencies.
Yeah.
I see, though, when you start talking about engaging in the civilian world, there's a lack of belief and proficiency in these contingencies. That's not there as a soldier.
Right.
You have 100% belief in your proficiency no matter what the contingency.
Yeah.
When you get to the civilian world, that tends to break down a little bit. The other side of your answer, and I want to talk about that, but the other side of your answer, I think teases out, you guys place a lot of value in what you're contributing, not what you're taking. So for a Green Beret to not be a part of a team, you guys aren't displaying value on a very regular basis about what you're bringing to the table. But to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm in a contingency I'm not real sure about.
Right.
I need your help on this.
Yeah.
The way I describe it is you guys are always the helper, never the helped. So how do you get ready for that? How does a guy get ready for that? I'm asking this question because I think if we get this straight during career, it actually makes you a better soldier. Understanding this.
Yeah, it does.
So I'd love to get that from your perspective, though, because I'm just HPW, right? I'm just a nonprofit guy. Right. You're inside the population. I'd love for you to agree or disagree with that and tease that out for me some.
Yeah, we go by, I tell my guys, I'm a team sergeant now myself, you know, and I tell my guys, hey, man, we only live by like 2 rules. You know, number 1, never go anywhere by yourself, number 1. Number 2, always gain leverage. Never put yourself in a situation where you'll lose, not only in the battlefield, but in life. And my team sergeant told me something years ago that I was, you know, you find yourself like not doing anything, or you're doing something fast. He's like, find work. There's something to be done. You have to find work. Like, you know, maybe the Bravo section's done, you know, and the Echoes need help with radios, whatever. I was like, hey, dude, I'll just go help those out. But somebody needs something to do. Like, you have to stay busy. Heck, I even started teaching Sunday school, man. You know, and it's just something that keeps my brain going.
Building forts
and everything else, you know, for the kids. But the contingencies, that was one of my big things on a team. When I was a Bravo, that was the biggest thing. I'd have to brief contingencies. My team started like, you know, we get to that point of the op order, and he's like, hey, dude, contingencies, right? And I'm thinking like all the possible things that could go wrong. And I'm having to give like, hey, if we get hit right here, this is what we're going to do. Hey, if, you know, we run out of water, this is what we're going to do. Like, all those contingencies play a part. And that's something that, you know, actually helps us really in the civilian world is understanding what those contingencies would be, because something bad's going to happen. You know, you need to be able to transition quickly to what that is. But, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a bad thing. I think that all those things relate to being in the civilian world. Now, we normally hit things with hammers. Right. You know what I mean? So a lot of we have to step back and really figure out a way to apply it best. Like, one of my hardest things right now, I'll just be honest with you, is teaching my kid math, man. Like, you know, I'm used to training soldiers. I'm used to doing whatever, and I have to be able to explain this on a simple level. And I'm pretty good at that. I have a story to tell about that I think the Bravos out there will appreciate.
Go ahead.
We were in Iraq years ago. I think it was 2015 or something like that. And I was training the sniper dudes, like I told you before, and I just could not get them to understand like how the wind was affecting this bullet downrange. like, and there's a language barrier and all that stuff, and you're doing your best to get it done, and how that affects it. So I was like, man, I just have to think simple, and I'm good at that, thinking simple, So I was like, well, I'll just get this dude on the end of the room and he'll fire a shot, a fake shot, and I'd have a bullet on a string. And I just walked with that bullet on that string and like blew it and showed like, whatever. And then I'd have to write it on the board, like how much wind affects this at this distance. And they're like, oh yeah, we understand that kind of stuff. I'm kind of going to the same thing with my kid at home. I was like, hey man, I don't really know how to train you on this math. But we're going to figure it out, dude. And I think that a lot of those things that we have transition over pretty well, but yeah, contingencies is big, man. You got to use them. And I think that a lot of team guys, just using their hands, staying busy, relying on these contingencies that at work, thinking about the problems and applying them is how you retire.
Yeah, it's like, same man, different modality, same lessons.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Yeah,
right?
It's all there.
And
it's all there.
I'm trying to do a really good job on this podcast convincing the men listening that is actual reality.
Yeah, it's reality.
That everything has worked together to lead you to this point.
Yeah.
And the experiences that you've had, that you've built over time, the lessons that you've learned, they cross-pollinate. Mm. Not just as a way to try to empower the Green Beret, but in a way to attempt to rescue our culture from where it's headed. I appreciate so much the way you've navigated this interview today and these questions. I remember one day we were sitting in down at the unit, we were working out. I refused to bench press with you. That's a whole different episode. Yeah. You were teaching me about the canoe and how to bench press correctly. But you started telling a story about putting your hands on a man. He had been knifed. He was injured in his skull, in his head.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was actually an interpreter at the time, and we were moving across the objective, and we'd sent him forward to take a look-see or whatever, and he didn't come back. And I was like, man, where's this dude at, dude? And I was like moving over there, and we finally see him over there, and I start running to him. He'd been knifed in the head, like 10 times or whatever like that. And I remember putting my hands on him, whatever, and it like he was just snapping out of it, and I'm trying to think of what the point of that was.
Did he make it?
Yeah, he survived. Yeah, we got him out. We'd call in medevac and got him off the objective, and he finally made it. And we went to see him in the hospital, the local hospital later, and he had survived and all that. Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff that makes up the life of a man. That just if you and I were sitting beside each other, at a restaurant or at church, those kind of things that are just baked into the recipe with you. Yeah. I'd never know about them. That's another part of this community that really fascinates me.
Yeah, the things that you're experiencing really, and I hate that society doesn't have a lot of that, but those memories and things that I have are the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing. It's because I understand, what that is, and it hits home and kind of makes you somebody else, but like you say, that we're trying to help society and those types of things. But you got to remember that the reason why it seems like things have gotten bad is because, we went through World War II and World War I. And so the men that we've produced on the outskirts of that were able to shape society in such a way that's positive. And there's something about conflict and challenges that make you understand the principles that are necessary for survival, not only on the battlefield but in life. Those guys like my grandfather and those people, they brought those things home and were able to give them to me that made me who I am. That little thing that we talked about earlier that I don't know how to train, Yeah. And a lot of the guys I'm around have that same thing, but it's because they were giving it to it from the soldiers of the past. And I hate to say that we need conflict, but some form of conflict is needed. That's how you get to the core of what a real man is. If he's not challenged or done anything, like I had a kid fell a course the other day. He's like, oh, man, I haven't failed anything in my life. I was like, well, man, then you haven't done anything, dude. Like that you need to understand how to fail. If you don't understand how to fail, you don't know how to win or how to act when you do win. So that's something that we're losing because we don't have conflict. that sounds bad. I know.
No, I mean, I think it's resistance that builds strength, right?
Yeah, it produces things that we've had in the past, and as the war's dwindling down, we're starting to lose that, putting those people in society that, you know, it may be a guy that you don't even know, like a manager at Walmart that's, you know, that's done some hard things in his life, that's keeping that thing afloat because he understands what not to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Not necessarily what to do. Yeah. So that's it.
Well, I'd love to wrap this up by just giving you, and I try to give every man on this platform an opportunity to do this. You know, having the opportunity to collectively grab the young men in our culture by the shoulders, look them in the eye and give them something that they need, saying something that they need to hear. What would that be for you?
A man needs a couple of things. He's got to have purpose. You know, one of them is to protect his family and protect the people around him. That is his number one task as a man. You know, the other one is to provide. However you do that, you know, whether it's warfare or whether it's, you know, being a garbage man or something like that, like, that is valuable. Like, what you're doing may seem not important, but you're providing a value. Like, you're finding work that supports the team. You know, I give a counseling to the guys that are new on the team, and I say, you know, lie and steal and cheat to anybody except the team. You know, like, if you're going to cheat and steal, as long as it's to benefit the team, then we're good. If I see that you're only benefiting yourself, you're done here. You know, and I would say it's not about you. It's about the people that are around you. That's what it's about. My grandfather was born very, very poor. We grew up very poor. You know, that's how I was raised. And he said, "Hey, man, you want good kids?" I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Well, man, you know, spank them every day, whether they need it or not." But he's like, "I was born for a purpose, and that purpose was to pick cotton." You know, and every dime I made went to my dad. And as we got successful, we all got successful. Nowadays, we treat children like they're the most important thing, and they're not. The team is. The team, the ODA, the team is the most important thing. That's what your purpose is the team. And I think guys need to understand that before they even go out into the world. It's like, hey, man, you're representing an ODA or representing your family or whatever that is. It's sacred, and it's something you need to take seriously. And, you know, your purpose is to support and provide. That's it.
That rising tide raises all ships, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Something I hear you guys say a lot. Well, listen, before we wrap this up, as uncomfortable as this makes every man behind that microphone, I want to say thank you for your service. For the place that you took on the timeline, for the things that you've done, unknown by most people, to protect and to serve the ideals of this country, and the people who have been thankful and the people who have not been thankful. You've done it for all of them. The ways that you've stood shoulder to shoulder with Americans and eyeball to eyeball with partner forces. We are, as a community, as a population, deeply grateful for your service.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for tuning in to the Soldier Fund podcast. If you're inspired by the stories of these elite citizen warriors and want to support their mission, visit us at thesoldierfund.org. Your contributions help us to continue to back the Special Forces soldiers of the National Guard as they fight around the world. Until next time, stay committed to stand with those who serve.